So welcome to the second video of this playlist, Trackify. So in this video, we're gonna start with the backend, and I will tell you how you can set up the node environment and how you can add backend folders in it. So let me just create a new folder, backend folder. And in this app, in this folder, we have to install npm package, or you can, if you don't have a node in your computer, firstly you have to install it from Chrome. You can download it from Chrome and install it, and then you can just simply check your version. You can see here, yeah, you can see here I have already downloaded the node, and you can also check the npm version also. This is the version. So now you have to add npm package in it. So how we can do it is like this: npm init and /y. So so this is the command for initializing. Init means initializing the npm package in this folder, and for /y basically does is that it gives the query the questions they will ask when we set up the npm package. It automatically answers yes to all the questions that they will ask while installing the npm package. So we're gonna just do with this, and it will create a packet.json file, as you can see here, right? So this is the packet.json file. It will contain all the dependencies or that dependencies that you need to run the program, necessary package, third-party packages that you need to run the program. So let me just install the dependencies, that npm dependencies that we need. So first is basically Express for routes, and Axios. I will explain to you of all these dependencies later. And bcrypt, you just have to bear it with me. Crypt cookie parser, Mongoose, JSON dot env. So basically, yes, these are the dependencies that we need for to run our project. Express basically you need for the routing purposes, that the API call which will send to the backend, and the data will be fetched through the route. The route the program will use is using the Express, and Axios for calling, setting up. We basically use fetch for conventional methods, and Axios is a new, and it gives us more freedom than fetch. So it is basically to get the HTTP calls. And bcrypt is for the adding salt to the password, so that we can maintain the integrity and security of the password that the user chooses for their user ID. And cookie for parsing the cookie and storing the cookie. And mongoose for creating the model for adding the MongoDB, so that we can interact with the MongoDB much more easier than using the conventional MongoDB queries. And JSON Web Token will help us to store the token, so that we can have a serverless sessions for setting up the cookie. And .env for setting up the environment variable in our app. So let me just quickly install all that dependencies. So these are all the dependencies that are necessary for the app to run. So you can see all the dependencies have been installed. And here in the backend folder, I will just create a server file, which will be a main file to run the program. So as you can see here, you have to keep it like this. And let me just go, and you have to import Express from okay. So as you can see here, there are two ways you can import or import Express. Let me just show you how. So these are the two ways you can import Express from Express. So basically what the difference is that when the package doesn't have a type of common JS, so for this we will use this format or this syntax, common JS. And when we are using the type as module syntax, then we will use the import statement. If I will change it to module, you can use this syntax. So let me just use this syntax altogether for all the processes. And now let me just get done with it. Const app, calling the function of Express, so that we can use built-in objects of the Express. You might be thinking how that autocomplete is coming, or this suggestion. This is basically I'm using Git Copilot, which is used for giving the prompts or giving the suggestion of the code. It very helpful for writing the code for the beginner, or you can learn it from as well. And now let me just set up. As you can see, suggestion is already there. Okay, this is how we can set up a route in the Express. Now we have to run this, set up the port, and we will run this all together. I have .listen, as you can see here. So when we run this, it will go to this port, and we have to use this address to run our code, and the hello will be printed there. For this, you have to set up the package.json file in such a way that you can have to use our file is server.js, and we are running the script dev npm run dev that we're going to use. Okay, so how we're going to use it, like this node, and we have to write backend slash, this is where our file is. You have to delete this one. Okay, and if we do the npm run dev, as you can see, server is started. So as you can see here, I have typed hello world, and let me just show you in my, yeah. So if I am changing the values or adding any value in the in this console, then you can see the change is not reflected in here. And for this, I think I have to run it again. And if I run it again and we reload the page, the change will be there. So let me just show you one more time. If I add something and I reload, nothing is happening right now. So if I exit and run again and I reload, the change is there. So to overcome this problem, we have to use node.mon, or you can use something like this, test watch. So basically it is used to make the server listen to the changes that occur when we type or when we save the file and we reload, the change will occur. So basically we're going to use npm install node.mon and /d. Basically /d is for the dev dependencies that we're going to use, because the node.mon is dev dependencies. There are two types of dependencies I'll show you right now. So you can see here it comes under the dev dependency. So basically what dev dependencies is, basically it is a dependency that are not required to run the program. It is not necessary to run the program, right? You can see you need Mongoose for modeling, you need Express for routing, but these dependencies that are dev dependency, they are not necessary to run the program. So if I'm gonna run that again, so you can see if I change any value, and you can see the server is starting automatically. We don't have to cancel out and then start it again. And we reload the page, the changes are there. So these are the ways you can run the program. And now let's get started with our project. And this is how we're gonna set up that. And let me just create one value, one file, which is .env. So .env is an environment variable which we can use globally in our project. It is used to set the variables that we're going to use in our whole project, so that we don't have to initialize it every now and then in some other files or some other project. So for the first one, we will use port, which going to be, now you can see the port is here is 3000, but I'm going to use 5000. It's your own wish what you want to use, but make sure that port is not running some other program or something like that. So to initialize it, we're gonna create an object so that we can use it some other place. Okay, so let me just create a new folder in the backend config. So in here I will set the environment variable object, so we can retrieve it anywhere we want in a project. So let me just name it env environment variable.js. So to initialize the environment variable, we have to import .env that I have installed in the npm package. Okay, now loading the environment variable. This is the basic syntax for running the environment variable. And now let's just create an object to export. Oh, sorry, my bad. Export, and you can set, no, we don't need it right now. So this is how we're going to set the environment variable. This is the one we will set more in future. in our next videos. So this is how it will set the variable. Process.env.port means process.env is a calling function, and we will process.env, we go to .env and .port. .port is 5000. If it doesn't find the 5000, it will send 3000 in its place. So we can see here, we're gonna set it import emvars, okay, object, and we can set the emvars object in it, const port emvars.port, or you can send it 3000. Okay, and you have to add port here, and here also you can write port. Since port isn't variable, so we have to pass it like this using ticks. It's a basic JavaScript syntax, nothing fancy. And we have to put a $sign here. And if I run this again, it will run on 5000. Yeah, I was thinking some problem will occur right now. Oh, sorry. I have to use node.mon here. My bad. MON. What is the problem right now? The path is not right, guys. Config/env, and don't forget to write JS, because in the module, and when we set the type is a module, then we have to set up the variable extension also, or it will create an error. Let me run it again. What is the problem now? It is saying can't find module. Is it working now? /. Oh shit, I've created the value. So yeah, that's why it was failing. So the value, I set it in outside the config file, and now you can see it is running on 5000 because I've set the environment value 5000, and you can see server started at 5000, no errors right now. And you can open the file, and you can see here right like this. So this is how we can set up the routes, and you can also set up new routes. You have to set up something like this. Let's set it to test, and it will be test. Let's see if I go to test. I have changed it to 5000. So you can see test route is running fine. And now let's set some more routes. So you can see this is the basic syntax or basic way of working with Express, and how we use the server.js file for adding routes and something like that. Now let's start with a project, and we have to set up new routes for sign up and sign in and login and something like that. So let me just first set up a route for sign up, and you can use it something like this: API/v1/auth/user. So this is basically a convention. You don't have to use it something like that. You can just use auth or user, or you can say simply write auth user sign up. But this is basic convention for API calls, so that people know. And if you want to change the call without changing the entire route, you can just write it v1, and you can add new features in it. This is just a basic convention for user calls, and you can write it user/sign up. So you can write it like this. This is sign up route. Okay, let me just copy it out. It's too big, and you can paste it here. My bad. One. So you can see here this is sign up route. So now if we will use all our functions or all our API calls in a single folder, it will become very not comfortable to see or something like that. It become very unreadable for the integrity of the code, or anyone who is reading your code might be able to understand what you're written or not. So that's why we use different types of folder or naming conventions for adding different roots and functions, so that everyone who is new or beginner can read your code and understand what is written or something like that. So basically we will use different folders for setting up routes, and to add functions to those we can add a different folder or different file for that. So now for setting this up we will use app.use. Okay, and we will sign up a route in different folder app.use, and we will set this up later. Let me just keep it right now, and let me just create a routes folder. In here we will add route, so the name should be like the auth. This is up to you how you wanna name it. User dot route dot routes. This is the name I have given. So how we're gonna set up the user auth routes? So first we have to import Express from Express, and we have to, this is basically a router function in Express to use different routes. And now we have to use the router function to call post request, because as you can see the client will be adding its detail, and so we can post it in the backend, so that the store values that it has been sent can be stored in the MongoDB. So you can use the auth and log into the dashboard or something like that. So now as you can see it is going to be a post request, and it will be a sign up request, and you can do similar thing like this. You can write the whole function in here, this whole function as you can see here, or whole logic of which function will be run when this API route will be called. You can use here in this place also, but for the convenience and for the convention we have to use different files and different route for this function. So I'm just gonna write like this. I will create a function user sign up function. Okay, let me just add 3 more for user login and user logout. Okay, I have added 3 functions. Now let me just create a new folder, which I'm going to name as, you can name whatever you want, but these are basically the convention to use in the backend for adding controllers or functions that you want to use. And we can add auth dot user dot controller dot js. Just bear it with me, because I know this might be overwhelming for you all, but as you approach with this and you started building your own, you will be able to understand what I'm doing exactly right now. I will just quickly recap what I just taught you right now. So I'm using this route API v1 auth user, and I will export this function here, export default router. Okay, then I will import this function auth user route from route, as you can see here. So now I have to add this function auth user route. As you can see, the GitHub Copilot helping me a lot. This helps basically for not writing that much code, and it helps in building up the things very fast, and software applications very easy to write if you know what you're doing right now. And you can see here I have set up. So what I'm doing actually here is I'm using I'm telling the Express to use this path. Okay, and when you are calling this path, go to this function, this object, and it will go to this one, and whatever written here, we will see what controller it will use. It will use this controller, and this controller I've written in here. This is how this all is connected in such a way. Let me just add this one, login, log out. So this is how it will work. Let me just clear this one, and this is how it's working. So now you can also write that function controller function here in here also, but it will just very hodgepodge to look at and not very user friendly. So you will just write this function elsewhere and we will export it from here. So what you're going to do is we're going to create export const user sign up, and this is going to be an async function. So but what async function is, that is an asynchronous function. Basically, it is a function that that doesn't has a fixed time that it will arrive with the data or not. When a function does not arrive has a fixed time, it is known as asynchronous function. So we will use, and it is a promise that it will come or not, or you have to use it or not. Then we will use async and await for calling this type of function. It is basically used in fetching the data from the backend or connecting your data with the backend like this. So now what you're gonna do is we're gonna call this whole function in here, res dot status, or you can test it out, res dot send, res dot user sign up endpoint. So let's just hope it will run fine. Let me just clear the terminal and run the some occur is occurring. Oh, so it is saying that user sign up. You also have to import that auth user from, not this one, controllers. Okay, this is the file. So you have to write it like this, user sign up. This is the function, right? User sign up. Sometimes it doesn't work like this. You have to just remove it and place it again. Yes, and you have to paste it. My bad. User sign up. Auth, let me just check. Controllers. I guess you have to use double, right? Slash controllers. Yeah. .js. Yeah, you can see the color has been changed, and you can some problem. Let me just comment it out for now. As you can see, the server is running right now. Res.send. This is basically not working because we're not using the get request, because we're not actually posting that. So for now, to test it out, you can use the get right now. You can see it will work fine. As you can see, user sign up endpoint. Basically, post does not receive the data, so to print it out we cannot use res.send with a post because you don't have a data to post it to the page. So for time being we will use something like this. Let's just create other controllers. I'm just gonna copy this one 3 times, login and log out. Okay, let's just check all the endpoints if they're working or not. Login, log out, and we can make them get to. Okay, so these are all the routes. You also have to export user login. You can change, you can see the color has been changed also in all 3 of them, and this is the final look you will see in the route folder of user. And this is the functions. Let's check every function. Login, user login endpoint, logout, user logout endpoint. So with wrapping this up, I'm just gonna recap what we actually learned in this video. And for the next video, I will set up MongoDB and how you can create different types. This is just a simple checkpoint to ensure that it is working or not. In the next video, we will write hold the controller and add MongoDB and add a fully functional database so that we can add user authentication in the backend and we can run the server and using all these controller. In the next video, we will do all this. So let me just recap what we done in the whole video right now. So basically what I have done is we call express from express, and we call the express function using app, and app.use is an object that is built in the express function that use this path. You have to remove this one here because I'm using slash here, right, like this. So it basically means that you have to use this path, localhost or 5000 like that, use this path, and when this path hits, you will go to this function, this object, which also create the next part of the path, that is slash sign up. When this whole path, as you can see here, API v1 auth user slash sign up will hit, then you have to run this function, and this function is coming from this file auth user controller, and this is the function. I have defined the function here. So you have to do what you have to do is res.send this console.log file to the page. So this is how all the routes and they are all working. In the next video, we will set up MongoDB and add authentication of the user login sign up using Postman, and I will create a Postman account so that you can see how we can use Postman for using API calls, so for checking the backend when there is no front end right now. Okay, thank you for watching this video. We're gonna do something new in the next video. Stay tuned and like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.